Night owls of Reddit, what is the creepiest things you've experienced while everyone else was sleeping? Got a house share going on right now, and every one of the lads has heard a female voice in a particular hall. Thing is, none of us has brought a girl home in months. We have all just assumed one of us have got lucky. We've taken the cats to bed, so it can't be them. And our neighbors don't get back to January. We are not as afraid of her as we once were, but there is definitely a voice coming from somewhere in the house. And we can all agree she starts by humming, although no one has made out many of the words. I've heard her 4 times now, and I'm 90% sure she is not speaking Portuguese, English, or Spanish. One of you is watching porn too loud. The cause of 80% of paranormal events. It was a spooky ghost. This is ectoplasm. I'm coming. Oh beep, I'm coming. Run, the ghost is coming to get us. I quite like going on late night jogs. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but there's something about running out into the middle of nowhere circa 1 AM, checking out the stars, having the entire world to yourself, running all the way back, and curling up in bed, totally spent. On this particular occasion, I'd worn myself out and was walking back to my apartment. I live in a reasonably good neighborhood, but nearby there are a few sketchy alleyways and generally weird little industrial areas that don't quite feel kosher. As I was passing one of these alleyways, this dude on a skateboard came zipping my way, screaming bloody murder. He held something metallic in his hand, but I was much too nearsighted to make out what it was. I kept walking, figuring that he was just your garden variety skateboarding drunk. But he kept skating faster and coming closer. Exhausted though I was, I decided to run for it. He gave chase. Fortunately enough, a massive hill was right up ahead of me. This gave me a distinct advantage. I could chug my way up the hill, and, bewheeled as he was, he couldn't really gain the momentum to catch up with me. He picked up his board and started running, shouting at me all the while, but he didn't appear to be in peak physical condition. I crested the hill, took a few erratic turns into a number of different apartment complexes, and finally weaved my way back home. I spent the next hour or so peering out of my blinds like a film noir detective. I still have no idea what the beep that dude wanted. Maybe he just wanted to offer me a stick of gum. This one time was so scary. I was on Reddit at about 3:30 AM, just like now, and I heard the sound of something falling downstairs. Now this happens sometimes, you know, weird house sounds. So I ignored it. About 10 minutes later I heard a similar sound. Now I actually started getting scared. I'm also a person that just always thinks the worst. In this case I fantasized about people breaking in and coming upstairs to kill me or something. Now I didn't want to wake my parents, who sleep a floor above me, because of my paranoid mind. So my stupid beep decided to just take a weapon, a pretty big book, and go downstairs. Before I was even on the stairs I heard my dog, who sleeps downstairs in a crate, bark pretty loudly. By this time my heart was racing, really beeping fast, because if my dog barks she probably sees a person or something move. I went even further downstairs as slowly as possible, trying not to make any sounds. Then I was at the door that separates the stairwell from the main room. At this exact time I heard another weird sound, but now it sounded more like little clicks hitting the ground. You might see where this is going, but I didn't at the time. This scared me so much that I had to stand still for a minute or so. I was trying to be the hero, so I just closed my eyes and barged in the room with a huge book in front of my head and started screaming. Then I heard my dog bark, weirdly, right in front of me, even though her crate is in another part of the room. After about 10 seconds I opened my eyes and I slowly realized it was my dog making all the sounds. So it turned out her crate wasn't closed properly and she was just roaming around the house. And my stupid beep head thought it was an intruder. I'm also very stupid for trying to get rid of the intruder myself. I felt very stupid after this, and I just put the dog in her crate and went to bed. Lots of weird beep after broadcast beep on local channels. I was a babysitter in my teens and would often stay up until parents came home, which was usually from around 11 PM to even up to 4 AM. I'd stay up and watch TV, and oftentimes that'd be local channels, which get beeping weird in the tiny hours. You'd often get infomercials, but since no commercial slots would ever sell during those hours, they'd basically put interstitial things instead, bits of music videos or weird local access beep. Now, the strongest channel was channel 8, and so if your tuner was beepity you'd pick up ghosts of it on channels 9 and 7. Though thankfully channel 7 never had much on it, and 9 was the same as 10, so you'd never really notice, or have to worry about it. I learned channel 9 wasn't just 10 stretched across 2 frequencies but actually, a mirror of it, so that 9 would go offline at about midnight, while 10 kept airing. So one night, the kids are in bed, I'm sitting in the living room quietly watching whatever is on channel 9, and the program finally ends. But instead of it just cutting to black all out beeping on a blue background like the higher channels did when they went offline, it cut to fuzz, but superimposed onto this fuzz was a skeletal face that kept shaking back and forth like a no gesture. There was no audio, just the face as it shook back and forth with no noise. It was frightening, and so I scrambled to the TV to change it back to literally any other channel, and by sheer bad luck I chose to click it down to 8. Something had glitched on channel 8's broadcast, wherein a woman with her hair pulled back and very heavy smoky makeup was being interviewed, but the footage was looping about 4 frames, over and over and over, going, and in the middle of her turning her head. She wasn't a skeleton, she just had an expression showing her teeth and such heavy makeup that the ghost of it on channel 9 made her look like a skeletal face. Though, seeing it, it was still beeping horrifying in a way I can't explain. She had extremely light blue eyes which made her eyes stand out with such heavy smoky makeup like eyeballs in a socket. I'm sure she was just caught in an awkward frame and everything was normal, it just was repeating that moment where he looked creepiest. I hit the TV, wondering if it was a signal thing with the box, and while it fluttered it didn't fix it, and I figured it was a station problem. I went up to channel 10, which was okay for a few moments until it too cut to fuzz. I then clicked around to all the other channels. Everything was either frozen, fuzz, or like channel 8, a repeating segment over and over. Then the channel I was on let out a loud piercing beep, and all the power went off. The TV blinked off. The kitchen lights turned off. Everything. Even the clocks and the microwave, the fridge, everything. You could hear the electricity dissipate in a wee noise as it all wound down. The house had very big windows, so as soon as my vision adjusted I realized that the power was completely gone from miles around. No street lights, no cars, absolutely nothing. I can't tell you what it's like to see a city as far as the eye can see with no power at all. You don't think about it, but it gives off this aura that everything is dead. You expect even a few little lights to be on, security lights, even backup generators, or ambient light from the city, some kind of whirring, but it's all completely vanished, all dead. Everything was dead. You could hear the wind going through the houses, the alleys, the trees, the tall power lines. The black-lit houses were even darker against the sky, which at night seemed lighter simply by contrast with the stars. It was truly unreal. The power was entirely off for another hour, where I saw lights from the parents' car return to the driveway, the first artificial light I had seen for an entire beeping hour. They came in and were glad everyone was okay, and told me that the dad would drive me home, while the mom stayed here, that there had been a fire at the power station that incidentally was right beside the broadcasting station. My parents' house is haunted. As a child I would wake up to the TV being too loud. I'd go to the living room to tell my parents it was loud and the TV suddenly turned off while my parents were in bed. This happened a lot. In the basement we had a room with a stereo, TV, pool table and pinball machine. I woke up to people laughing and music. I went downstairs and it was a party with adults wearing masks. Again my parents were in bed. Years later, my nephew got hold of my camera and started taking pictures in the living room. In one photo there she was, a bright light, where a ceiling fan is at without a light. She was blurry with long dark blonde hair and a green nightgown. We couldn't see her face. In my teen years, when I would wake up during the night and go get a drink, I'd see her in the living room and walk through her, and it would be so cold all through me. She was harmless but still. Come again. A party full of adults wearing masks? Someone parents had savage orgies on their basement and Joe was never invited. Just tell him it was ghosts, he'll never know. When I was 11 my parents let me stay up in the summertime super late. So it's probably 1 AM. Everybody is asleep. I'm in the living room, no lights on, just the TV. Low volume. Our living room is right by the front door, like most houses. I hear the screen door very quietly and gently creak open. Eeeeee. Then very gently somebody wiggles the front door knob. It's locked. I'm beeping terrified. I stand up and tippy-toe towards the door, and as I'm doing so I can see a shadow of somebody trying to peek in through the front dining room window. They can't see in because of the curtains, but I can see their silhouette. Then they turn and leave and I look through the door eye hole. Never see their face. Just some guy walks down the street and gone. Like and subscribe for more top tier quality content.